Today, we're going to talk about influencers and how everybody pretty much hates them at this point. That's a general feeling I read online. The fatigue of influencers, influencer fatigue. Everybody's sick and tired of watching somebody flex their wealth, especially now in this K-shaped recovery in this economy where the wealth gap between those who have assets and those who do not is more glaring than ever. Everybody's kind of struggling at the moment, struggling to put food on the table, struggling to buy groceries, and layoffs and AI taking people's jobs. And even if you're kind of just skating by, you're probably one medical emergency away from complete financial devastation. One car accident, one medical emergency away from complete financial collapse. And that's kind of how it feels living right now. There's really no social safety net. So now that all has been thrown into the pot, add several years of watching influencers do mansion tours and luxury walk-in closet tours and having professional organizers organize your 300 pairs of designer jeans, somebody buying like a airplane, sponsored brand deals that you have to watch, flying influencers off to like the Bahamas or something, the free PR package haul, watching influencers get expensive items that they could afford for free, the luxury closet tours, the luxury bag haul, the luxury hauls, putting caviar, your McDonald's chicken nuggets. All of that has gone into the pot, and now we've reached this boiling point where people are just kind of fed up with influencers. The glory day of like a lifestyle influencer was around 2016, 2017, 2018. Like that was the time. If you wanted to flex, if you wanted to do a mansion tour, if you wanted to show where you're traveling to next, then that was the time to do it. But now is not the time to do it. Unfortunately, it seems that a lot of influencers now are still living in the past. They're still living in 2016, but it's now 2025 as I speak. It's going to be 2026. And the world is starting to look like a dystopian Hunger Games, where you have District 12, like the poorest district, and then the capital. And it seems like all the influencers are living in their dystopian bubble, and they're all living in the capital. And everybody else is just kind of watching on the screen, living like peasants, while influencers eat cake. And not only do they eat cake, but they eat cake in front of you and wonder why you don't eat cake too with their affiliate links. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And fear not, because I know this topic has been beaten like a dead horse, making the rounds of a lot of video essays about influencer fatigue, but I want to approach it from a new angle. Speaking from somebody who grew up low income, I had no problems watching TV shows about rich people, watching soap operas about rich people, reading about rich people. I find that it's very entertaining. Like I have no problems watching like 90210 and Gossip Girl and everything. It's about rich people. I think it's because this is fantasy. These are actors in a TV show or a movie, or if I read a book about it, this is somebody's imagination. This is not real. It's fantasy. You can indulge in it for a little bit, but it's not real life. The difference is with social media, this person's a real person. The line between fantasy and reality has been blurred. Therefore, people get much more enraged when an online personality who started off just like you and me rises in success and then starts to flex. So my name is Teresa, and this is the fine line between relatability and aspiration. Or let's just call it what it is: when an influencer flies too close to the sun. Let them eat cake. So this conversation all came to a boiling point online when Jaclyn Hill put out like a TikTok, wondering where her viewers were at. And is it the platform that's keeping her content from being seen by her viewers? But it turns out the backlash was viewers are just not interested in her content because she has changed so much from her 2010s. She was one of the original YouTube beauty influencers. She's just not relatable anymore. Her life has become so rich and so extravagant. Her average viewers who watched her when they were younger are now like older millennials, and now they're broke and struggling. They just want what she became famous for, which is just makeup education and makeup tutorials. But she's just deviated so far from that. She's doing elaborate show and tells and everything. I find that her case is the perfect example of somebody who became successful based on their online personality, their ability to strike a chord with their viewers, their relatability, who then became so successful that she stopped stopped being relatable, then started to lose her audience. And then now we're in this cauldron of those who have and those who have not. And then just watching somebody flex their wealth basically hurts a lot of people. Because, like, when you're struggling for groceries to feed yourself, feed your family, when you're struggling to like make this month's rent, and then you see somebody put some caviar on McDonald's hamburgers that you can't even afford anymore because the price has just gone sky high, it almost feels like a slap in the face. It's like you're trying to make rent and then somebody's lighting 20s on fire. It's very much like let them eat cake. And people are going to get angry, but mostly they just kind of stop watching this person that makes them feel low, that makes them feel bad, that makes them feel poor. So she's like a perfect example of how like an online personality needs to walk a fine line between relatability and aspirational. Because in the early 2010s, making a full-time living off social media, off YouTube, off Instagram was not something anybody could conceive of. The content out there was very relatable. It's just like a girl in her room doing a Daiso haul or styling her back to school outfits from Old Navy or Target, doing a makeup look with drugstore makeup palettes. It's all stuff that the average person, can do. But then as they slowly become successful, they're starting to upgrade their life. All of a sudden, it's no longer a girl in her bedroom. It's a girl in a mansion. Let's do the mansion tour. Or let's talk about my designer furniture. Let's talk about my luxury bag haul. I bought an airplane. That's just something that the average person won't do. I mean, they could do to keep up with the Joneses, and they could put themselves in massive amounts of credit card debt, but mostly it's just something that's not attainable to them. So when they started out, they were relatable, but also just a step above you, just a step aspirational. So you could feel like you could do it too. Achieving their level is actually within your grasp. Now, if I recall in the early 2010s, one of my favorite, this is even farther than 2010s, like 2007 or so, my favorite fashion blogger was this Norwegian girl called Style Bites. She would mostly dress in thrifted outfits mixed with a little bit of H&M. That was like the first time I ever heard of H&M. She would just wear tights from H&M. It was like it was 2007. The fashion was basically Gossip Girl. And then she would just take better than average fashion photos of herself. Like they weren't on par with Vogue fashion photos with like stuff that you see in a magazine. It was just kind of better than a fashion photo that I could take of myself. Her clothes were all thrifted. So it's kind of like, well, I could go thrift and find an outfit like that. Of course I could buy like these $4 tights from H&M if we had an H&M. I'll just buy it at Target and replicate the same outfit. She worked as an administrative assistant or something as her day job, and then she just dressed up and wrote in her blog as her hobby. That's the early foundation of an influencer. They take better photos than you. They have tips and tricks with drugstore makeup. They have tips and tricks with how to style the it dress of Target that costs like $12.99. All these things are very attainable to the average woman. When the gap between relatable yet attainable widens to unrelatable and unattainable, that's when you start losing followers. What can you do for me here? It's like, I'm never going to get on the list to buy a Hermes bag. I'm never going to go on a luxury shopping spree. So what then is the point of my following you? 90% relatability, 10% aspirational. That's the secret recipe to being an online personality. I've broken it down. I've studied this. I have studied this, okay? 90% relatability, 10% aspirational. But this is what I find is like the most tragic thing that I've seen time and time again. I see a lot of people as they become more successful, it's like 90% aspirational and 10% relatable. If people like them for their personality, there's still that 10% in there. If their personality sparkles, then that 10% probably still goes a long way. Like Emma Chamberlain, like that 10% still goes a long way, even though she's not relatable anymore. That's why personality and working on one's personality, if you don't have much of a personality, then work on your person. It's something you can work on, However, without a personality, that influencer is in danger. There's like an Instagram influencer I used to follow circa 2018, and she's mostly lifestyle and fashion, and I liked her style. I'm not gonna name her. I liked her style, and I liked the photography. I liked her Instagram boyfriend's photography. I found out that she had a YouTube channel, and then I went to her YouTube channel to check it out. Oh my God, this girl is 100% pretty in photos. When she makes the jump to YouTube, and her YouTube never took off, it's because her personality is dull as dirt. I still continue to follow her on Instagram because I liked her fashion sense, but then her fashion sense began to change. She went full on cottagecore. I thought it was cute for a while, but then when cottagecore slowly started to take on like a trad wife vibe, then I just unfollowed. Well, what am I getting out of this here? You live in a giant house with these kind of plates. I just wanted to see what you wear to work. It was kind of like workwear, like how to style your work outfits, and I was interested in that. You know, I need help looking good at work. It became unrelatable. If she had a great personality, I would have probably still stuck around during her cottagecore trad wife phase, but she didn't. People grow out of different influencers. Like I used to be really into watching Casey Neistat, and then he stopped posting, and then he would still occasionally post vlogs, but every single one of his vlogs was a sponsorship for NordVPN. And when he moved to like California, I'm not interested. His whole thing was all about New York City. Felt like he was kind of like the Mr. Rogers neighborhood for millennials. He had his UPS driver guy. I felt like it was like a tight-knit community over there. And then he moved to LA. Some influencers are very much tied to their location. What I find interesting is that some influencers have specifically moved to LA or New York for the content. There was a point where everybody moved to LA, and LA was featured everywhere in the sap dry, and then everybody moved out of LA. Ruined LA for the people who grew up here, by the way. I'm just saying, somebody who was born and raised in California, like it's really annoying going somewhere and you see influencers filming. Everybody thinks that LA is the capital because that's where all the influencers kind of flock to once they've made it. They move to LA. You don't need to move to LA, but I guess they move to LA, and then all the reality shows like Kardashians, LA, palm trees, blue skies. And yes, there's palm trees and blue skies and sunshine all year round, except during June. For like a small fraction of people, it is the capital of the Hunger Games. For everybody else, we're all living in our mini pocket District 12s down here. Let me take you to my old neighborhood where we had the chicken running around, the neighborhood urinator. You can watch it in this video right here. We're not all living like Greek gods feasting on ambrosia while everybody starves. Most native Californians are down to earth. I would say that most people who embody this annoying influencer stereotype that hangs out around Irwan and buys like a $20 smoothie, I would say they're California transplants, like they're not from California. That's why they're indulging in this idyllic California lifestyle. California is kind of like a place where people go to play act being a Californian, but real Californians kind of just go like, what are you doing? It's just one more person adding to the traffic that prevents us from getting somewhere in a timely manner. So it's almost kind of like living in a tourist destination where the locals don't really get to enjoy their home because a bunch of tourists are clogging it up and taking photos. That's the true California. And then there's the California that's presented online. LA was featured throughout a lot of 2016 through 2019 YouTube videos, and then they sucked LA dry, and then everybody started moving to New York. Now we're in the New York is the hotspot phase. What happens if your whole online personality is based on New York City? What if you can't live in New York City anymore? What if like the time comes when you have to move to like Indiana? Chicago is just as equally exciting as New York City, but your audience wants to live in, their dream is to live in New York City, not Chicago. So it's kind of actually very dangerous to be tied to a specific location. The decline of the influencer didn't happen in a vacuum. I feel like it's the perfect storm. Just the aging of social media, of YouTube, Instagram, even TikTok. TikTok's not that new anymore. From a psychological standpoint, it's the classic American dream of rags to riches, climb to success. The followers that were with them from the beginning are in their corner. They're rooting for them. We all want somebody that's kind of like us to succeed because we see ourselves, we project ourselves onto them. Their success is like our success. But then when they become too successful, when they become, in other words, too big for their britches, then that follows another story structure. It goes from underdog story to the fall from grace. They've flown too close to the sun. They forgot what matters to them. They forgot the little people that helped them get up there. They're doing mansion tours in poor taste. They're doing luxury hauls in poor taste. They're eating caviar in poor taste. And the natural progression for that in terms of having having any kind of balance in the universe is to see that person fall from grace. Whereas the underdog story is kind of like the Karate Kid or like Rocky. You want to see the underdog succeed. The fall from grace story is kind of like Scarface, for instance. A better example would probably be all the music biops out there. While we psychologically want to see the underdog succeed, once they become too big for their britches, then the desire to see somebody who is too full of themselves knock down a few pegs, secret taking pleasure in somebody's misfortune takes place. They were small and starting out, you root for them as the underdog. If they fly too close to the sun and become egomaniacs and narcissistic and unappreciative of all their fans, then the desire to see them fall kicks in. Kind of speaks to the pitfalls of starting out relatable and then changing. I mean, people do change. I feel like there's a little bit of a double standard here. It only applies to social media personalities, online personalities that start out relatable. But for some reason, it doesn't apply to celebrities. Psychologically, the old way of thinking is that celebrities are in another stratosphere from you. They're not like you at all. You see an actor and actress in a movie, they're not relatable to you. Like for instance, like back in the 90s, Sandra Bullock was like the girl next door type of character. Meg Ryan, the rom-com actress, they're girl next door. But if you see them out in person, you're not like, oh my God, Sandra Bullock, she's just like me. No, she's a movie star. So therefore, even if they are relatable people, there's still this divide between celebrities and regular people. That's why back in the early 2000s, Us Magazine or something would have all these paparazzi shots of celebrities running their errands. Look, they're just like us. They're just like real people. I mean, they're real people. I just think it's funny that they have to announce that these celebrities are, look, celebrities doing normal things. Isn't that cute? So therefore, even if they are relatable people, there's still this divide between celebrities and regular people versus like a YouTuber, Instagrammer, TikToker. The line between fantasy and reality has been blurred. What I've noticed is there's an extra layer of sour feelings, maybe an extra layer of jealousy when it comes to social media influencers because they're so relatable. It's like their relatability at the beginning propelled them to success. But because they're so relatable, if they become very successful and they start doing mansion tours, luxury hauls, that's when people start to hate them. Who does she think she is? She's no prettier than I am, or she's no more personable than I am, or talented than I am. Then why is she living in a mansion and I'm stuck working this dead end job? I could have been there too. I can make a TikTok. My iPhone's just as good as her iPhone. And I've been to Bali and I've taken a photo of myself in a bikini. Why does she have 1 million likes and I only have like 5 likes? You know, you're all birds in a flock flying. And then when you see somebody flying too close to the sun, you kind of just want to drag them back down. Fall back into line. Be relatable again. Be like me again. Versus like a celebrity is probably like a unicorn or something. It's psychologically, you're not part of the same species. I would say anybody can make a video essay. Anybody. What do I have that you don't have? You're prettier than me. You're more well-spoken than me. A lot of people have told me they're more well-spoken than me. You can buy this IKEA lamp if you wanted to. Why are you following me? It's not because of the soothing sound of my voice. It's not because I have like a great ability to screenshot low resolution images. I think it's just because I tickle your funny bone and I tickle your brain sometimes. So if you've made it this far, then drop this stack of cash in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you've enjoyed me, then consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you next time.